So today on the podcast, welcome to the Freemium Podcast.
Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. I had something in my mouth. Today on the podcast, we got my father, business partner and friend. We got Gary Killen. We've been working together for, since I started in insurance, I guess we could say.
What's that, 10, 11 years?
10 years.
10 years.
It's been 10 years. And Gary Killen, he's been my father my whole entire life. So this is who we got on. He's been Gary's been working in insurance for a while. We're going to get into all that today, but welcome to the podcast. Thank you very much for coming up, and no need to be nervous. You can let loose and say whatever you'd like to say whenever you want to say it.
I will. Good to be here.
Cool. Anything in particular you want to talk about first? I have a couple of things I want to talk about, but do you have anything you want to talk about first?
I'll let you ask the questions. I mean, I don't know where you want me to start. Do you want me to start 30 years ago? Do you want me to start 10 years ago? Do you want me to start?
I got a whole plan worked out. So we'll start with, let's talk about, so it's not going to be about insurance at the beginning. Let's talk about your upbringing.
My upbringing?
Yeah.
I'm from a family of 7 kids. My parents came here in 1956, immigrated from Scotland, from Glasgow, actually.
Yeah.
My dad he immigrated to Toronto first.
Yeah.
It was Canada, Montreal, Toronto. The difference didn't mean anything to him. So he was in Toronto looking for a job. He got a job working for Liberty Mutual. He was a salesman there. He loved it. But he didn't like the après work. In Toronto, he said, they were boring. Nobody went out for a drink. It was like they finished work at 5:30 or 5 o'clock or 4:30, and everybody went home to their wives. And
he liked his drinks.
Yeah, he enjoyed it. He enjoyed having a few drinks here and there. Exactly, yeah. He did.
Yeah.
So anyways, the boss came up to him in Toronto and said to him, we're going to open up an office in Montreal. And, you're the most likely candidate because your family's not here yet. Your wife's still in Scotland waiting for you waiting to come over here. And we thought about you, and my dad said, sure, I'll no problem. I have a suitcase. I don't have anything else to bring. And
I didn't know that. So he was in, Nana was still in Scotland?
Yeah. He was here for, I think, between 6 months and a year before they came over. Before my older sister, my older brother, Don and Frankie came over. He was over here getting himself set, saving enough money to bring them over, just getting himself established over here. And so they said to him, the boss said to him, would you like to have an office, like to go to our office in Montreal? It's a new office. And my dad said, sure, no problem. So I'll try it out and let's do it. He comes to Montreal and he's got his new office, and his new office just happens to be the sales office in Montreal, just happens to be on Crescent Street in Montreal. So,
oh wow,
he just died.
And what was Crescent Street like back? So this would have been about what, the 50s?
56.
Okay, and what was Crescent Street like back in the 50s?
It wasn't what it is today, but it was.
So it wasn't. So for today, it's just bars, it's restaurants, it's clubs.
They had clubs back then, but not to the extent that they have today.
Got it.
But it was a social area of Montreal where you could go have a drink, you could eat, have a good meal, and so his very first day at work was his partner was Rick Esber, who was owner of Williams and Esber, just passed away about 3 or 4 months ago, and my dad and Rick Esber are chatting. So Rick says to my dad at 5 o'clock, he says, Scotty. He called him Scotty because he was from Scotland. He goes, you want to go for a drink? And my dad said, sure. So that was his first day in Montreal as a salesperson, and he loved it. He ended up being a very good salesperson. He became sales manager. He hired dozens of people that he became great friends with, and he really embraced Montreal, and he embraced the whole culture here, and he did well. And he worked at Liberty Mutual up until he was up until 1972, if I'm not mistaken. And in 72, Liberty Mutual had a cash flow crunch, and they couldn't write new business because you need a certain amount of reserves to write the business. Well, they didn't have it. So basically,
let's explain that for those who don't know insurance. So can you just explain that part?
I'll simplify it.
Yeah.
If I open up an insurance company today, and I have, say, $1 million in it, I've raised $1 million, I have $1 million of cash. I can't write $100 million worth of premium because who's going to pay? How are you going to pay the claims?
And if everyone claims at once, you don't have enough money to pay.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a ratio, 1 to 3 or 3 to 1, I should say, or whatever it is, where let's say you have $1 million of cash, they'll allow you to write $3 million of insurance.
Yeah. Got it.
And that's how it works.
Okay.
So Liberty had a cash crunch, and they couldn't write new business. So they told my dad, and the head office was in Boston, they called my dad up and said, the last 5 guys in are the first 5 guys out. And because we don't need them. And so my dad said, well, I have a problem, he said, because 3 of those guys, my last guys that are out of the last 5 that are in, are my best salespeople. And I have people that have been here for years that are not very good salespeople at all, not proficient at the job whatsoever. He says, so I'd like to be able to, we're going to lay off 5 people. I want to lay off the 5 worst.
Yeah, of course.
Not, he goes, I'm laying off 3 of my most productive people.
This is stupid.
It's stupid, yeah.
Yeah.
They said, sorry, that's the rules. That's the, head office wants that, and do it. You got to do it.
Yeah.
So he went home to my mom. My mom said, he was upset. He was emotional, and so he did it, and he laid off 5 of his, 3 of his best buddies all on the same day, and he quit.
He said, "I'm out of here.
I'm out of here." He quit Liberty Mutual, and he started a home and car mom and pop shop selling home and car insurance. Started out of nowhere, out of his basement, actually our playroom.
Yeah.
And that was his office. Started with 1 policy. I don't know how he did it. I have no idea. It was 7 kids, a wife. I to this day I don't know how he did it, but he did it. And
that's some grit.
A lot of grit.
And just out of curiosity, so when he left, was he even able to bring some of the? I'm assuming there was a non-compete, obviously, from where he was working at Liberty Mutual. But you know how that works, right? I'm sure there were still a bunch of clients that, the first couple months are tough, but after a year, 2 years, I'm sure a bunch of them went with Frank Killen.
A bunch of those clients did go with him.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And did he bring those salespeople with him as well?
No,
he didn't.
No.
Why not?
He couldn't afford to pay them.
Got it. Yeah.
And
makes sense.
so it was my sister Donna just finished high school at the time.
Yeah.
So she joined him, and there was the 2 of them for years, and then Greg joined him. And then
I just want to stay here. So basically, when he was in the basement calling for insurance, or basically trying to start a business in insurance to support himself and to support 7 kids, there was no internet back then. So this was all getting a phone book and cold calling, right?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Get in a phone book and cold calling, but get this. It was so manual. Like nowadays, you quote, you go online, you get the quote, and the computer gives you the quote. Everything
Takes 5 minutes.
Takes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Back then, you had a book, and you flip pages to see what rating they are, what category, how old the person was, where they lived, and it would take you 10 minutes to look for the premium. Then you give the premium. Then you'd have to write up a legal size paper with carbon copies in the middle, or like 5 copies, whatever. And you had to write that up by hand, mail it by courier, get the policy back by courier, send the invoice to the client. Hopefully they pay you. So,
and this was why, I guess, back then insurance was a lot more face to face than what it is today.
Yes,
because it would just make sense. Hey, I got your policy. Do you want to wait a couple more days in the mail, or do you want to come pick it up? So they'd go pick it up.
Yeah, it was face to face, exactly.
Huh. It's interesting that in other parts of Quebec and Ontario more so than Quebec, but there's still, I don't want to say a lot, but there's still quite a few people that prefer to do home and car insurance face to face. It's interesting.
Yeah, rural areas for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They want to go, they want to walk, they pay by, get the people, they still walk in, they pay by check.
Yeah. Well, rural areas are not, you're not inundated by crowds on a regular basis. So you enjoy going out and
gives you something to do.
Seeing your broker and talking about the whatever,
Interesting. Okay, so Frank Killen started off, left Liberty Mutual, started off on his own, cold calling people, building KBD Insurance. Well, KBD, it's still here today.
Yep.
And Donna, so your sister,
yep,
started working with Frank. Was this immediately after or was this immediately once he started?
Yes.
On his own immediately. Okay.
Well, I moved within a month or.
Okay, so we'll say that's immediately.
I don't know exactly, but it was within the same, say, 5 or 6 months.
And then Greg, your younger brother, started. And then when did you start? When did you start working with KBD?
I started working with them when I was about 25 or 26.
Okay.
And but this is how it worked out. It worked out in my favor big time. My dad couldn't afford to hire me because my brother and sister were working there, so he couldn't afford to hire me and pay me because they didn't have the money. They there was a small shop and they didn't have it. So he got in contact with Prudential at the time, Prudential of England, and convinced them to have me work there for 1 year to basically train, learn home and car insurance, learn commercial insurance, and to get to know the product. And without the expense to KBD, I was a salaried employee by Prudential for almost a year. And
you must have had a good contact there to basically go, hey, my son's going to work there you mind training my son and I'll take him back in a year? That's a nice guy.
Yeah, it was a big contact, Yeah. And he took me. And anyway, so I started in the personal lines department.
Yeah.
And learned home and car insurance. And the people that were there were fabulous. They were supportive. I'm sure some of them, one or two are still there, I think. It was a great crew. The product itself, it didn't excite me. I didn't get any excitement out of home and car insurance. It was like, it didn't tickle my fancy. And then I left there, although I had great support when I was there. So I left the personal lines. I went to the commercial department on McGill.
This is while you're still at Prudential?
Yes, still Prudential. So I went to commercial. Yeah. I went to the commercial department on McGill College. I walked into the place. And my first day there, I said, I love this. The people were amazing. It was the products, the way they did things was very professional. And I was impressed because I saw some of the names that they insured, like big Fortune 500 companies, banks and stuff like that. So, well, this is where to be, And
this is where the money's at.
This is where the money's at. Yeah. And they had an amazing. Like managers, underwriters, they had quality. They had expertise in liability, expertise in commercial auto. They had it all, and I worked there, and I learned how to be an underwriter before I learned how to be a broker.
So you basically got to see, because you went on to become an insurance broker after.
Yes.
So you got to see underneath the hood of an insurance company, more or less.
Yeah, I got to see how the insurance treaties worked with reinsurance, because insurance companies, when they insure clients, commercial or whatever, they don't always take the full capacity. They reinsure that with other mm-hmm. reinsurance companies. I got to know how those worked and the capacity, and I got to see.
Reinsurance, for people that don't know, it's in an oversimplified version. It's basically insurance for insurance companies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a big what's it called, a shit salad, or I forget what it's called. Anyways, it's
yeah. So in other words, if your business is worth $100 million, when I say $100 million, that's building, stock, equipment, business interruption. If the value, total value is $100 million, and an insurance company X insures it, there's a good chance that they're not going to be taking that full risk. So if the building burns down, they don't want to pay out $100 million. They want to pay out maybe 30 or 40, and then the rest of it is paid by other insurance companies, and they get commission for that. for putting it out.
Interesting.
But yeah, so I learned how to underwrite before I learned how to be a broker, and I would see submissions come in from brokers, and I quickly realized that if you send your submission in on a napkin, it's not going to go anywhere.
Did you ever actually see that?
Absolutely.
No, you didn't. Are you serious?
It was basically almost a napkin, and I knew the broker. I won't say the name.
Oh my God. So you get just please send quote back within 24 hours, and they're asking you for a rush or something.
Yeah,
like
it would be the address, building, whatever, $1 million, $5,000 deductible, and give me my quote.
Interesting.
Yeah.
On a napkin. Cool.
Almost on a napkin. So the Prudential experience was amazing. It helped me out a lot. And when I started in insurance, I knew how to...
When you started as a broker, you mean?
Sorry, when I started as a broker.
Yeah.
I knew how to process the submissions, put all the underwriting information that you got from your prospect. I knew how to package that to make it enticing to the underwriter to give me a very competitive rate in order for me to get the insurance.
You knew how to so as an insurance broker, a commercial insurance broker, you knew how to present the risk.
Absolutely.
To simplify it. So that's a good point, because
but just let me cut you. Presentation is the utmost, because if you don't present it properly, you're not going to get a quote, or you won't get a competitive quote.
Okay, can you say that part again?
If you
give some details to this, because you have a lot of experience as a commercial. You're not dealing with clients anymore, but you were for a long time. You're dealing with mid-market commercial insurance clients and stuff. Can you, for the insurance brokers out there, this is an important tip for when you're sending. Can you please add some detail to this when you're sending the stuff to?
Okay. What I would do is, first of all, there's basic. Let's say, for example, you're company X. You're a manufacturer of widgets. Yeah. And you're making wooden widgets. And you're selling them to all over Canada, and some of them go to the U.S.
Yep.
So basic underwriting is I would come to see you, and I would supply the building information to the insurance company. Like, for example, what's the construction? How old is it? Is it sprinklered? Is it not sprinklered?
Yeah.
More or less.
Construction information.
Yeah. And then I would provide information to what you do, how you do it. Like, okay, he's a widget maker. He makes widgets. He imports the wood from BC, British Columbia. It comes in. He cuts it. He puts it through the lathe, the machine. The machine makes a widget form. Comes out the other end, and it goes into the paint shop, and the paint shop paints it. And then it's stored in the warehouse, and the warehouse is stored in racking, which is also sprinklered, and so that's basic underwriting information. But I would go a step further, and what I would do is it's like almost like a human interest story. I would supply information, like I would find out what's your education, what's your qualification.
As me, the business owner.
Yes.
Okay,
where you went to school, how you started this business, how did you start dealing with your broker? Why are you still with the broker? Obviously, you're happy with the service and everything else.
Yeah.
But I would add to that, because the best businesses that you can insure are businesses that have no moral risk whatsoever. And when I'm talking about a moral risk, you're not going to burn it down if it's not doing.
You're a
well.
diligent business owner. That's what you're looking for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're a business owner that doesn't want to have an insurance claim. You're not somebody that says, "Oh, well, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that, because what do I have insurance for?" Because insurance is going to put you back to where you were before, but you really don't want to have an insurance claim, a fire or whatever. It's not,
So you're looking for business owners with a good moral risk and who are willing to take preventative measures if need be in order to prevent them from making claims.
Yes. It's loss prevention. You want to be proactive with regard to loss prevention. You don't want to be reactive and wait for something to happen.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But being proactive is a good quality to have in insurance.
And then okay, I wasn't going to talk about this, but here let's take this tangent. So sending this is going to be good for the insurance crowd. If you're not in the insurance crowd, you can basically just fast forward. So but when you are sending off these risks, we're sending off these applications to insurance companies. Okay. So you just talked about how you'll add all the basic information. You'll go a step further and add even more information to paint a clearer picture for the underwriter. What I wanted to talk about was underwriting today versus underwriting from back in the day. When you were doing it, has obviously changed. It's changed. It's basically a lot of underwriters, the insurance companies are so big now, a lot of underwriters just basically look at a matrix, they give you a price, take it or leave it. We're not doing this. I wanted you to just kind of talk about that time, or the underwriters were, who's the guy there, 10 Cent Tom or something like that?
I'll tell you the story.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, back when I started, it was all about relationships.
Yeah. It still is to some degree.
But I'll tell you what's changed. What's changed a lot. There was dozens of insurance companies to deal with.
Yeah.
Way more than there is today. So there's been so much consolidation since then. Like Intact, if you take Intact and Aviva, those were probably 15 companies that consolidated those two companies. So so you had a lot of companies to go to, but the companies that you dealt with was smaller. There were less employees. Like you would maybe deal with 2 or 3 underwriters, maybe 1 underwriter, as opposed to something like Intact where you have 50.
Oh my God, yeah.
You know, or 80.
It's a lot.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, so you could easily develop relationships, and that's what it was all about. And you had your underwriters, and a relationship is about trust.
Yeah.
And if they trust you, and the only way they can trust you is by earning their trust.
Yep.
You know, you have to earn your own. You have to earn it. They have to earn it. I have to earn it, and it's the way it works. But so you would. I didn't really use underwriters to get quotes. I won't say used. I went to underwriters to present them with the information and to provide me with a quote, that quote there, but not. I would pre-sell everything. I wouldn't go to 7 underwriters or 7 companies or whatever it is. I would have it pre-sold. So when I go to see you, I basically come to an idea of what the premium would be in my head. You know, after you tell me your sales and how much to the U.S. and you know your process of how you manufacture. It's wood, so it's going to be a higher rate, and I was an assumptive seller, so I would more or less I would be saying to you, assuming I can do this and I can do that, and I can address your concerns with a service that we can give you, and so on and so forth. What would it take to constitute a change? And
that was your line.
That was my line.
I've used that before, by the way. It works well.
It works really well. You know, what would it take?
Yeah.
You have to assume.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, because you don't.
Let's say that line again for the brokers out there. Great closing line. Say that line again, please.
Assuming.
And this is, by the way, this is like once everything's already done, you've asked all the underwriting questions, you're talking to them, you have a pretty good idea of what they do as a business owner. You're getting ready to leave pretty much. You're going to go do your work, get a quote back to them.
Yeah, you're getting ready to leave. And you've already introduced yourself because when you walk in the door.
But here we're getting off topic. The line, that line, the
line I would use would be what was or is, assuming that I can address all your concerns with regard to like switching, like service, what we can provide, the insurance company that I'm going to quote you with. So in other words, I'm going to quote you with one of the big guys. Assuming I can address all your concerns, what would it take for us to do business together? What would it take? What would constitute a change for us to do business together? And that was what I would say. And then the response was usually, well, save me money. Well, I would say to myself, like, how much,
Yeah.
And then I would, but I knew my rating so well, I would basically say, if I can come in at this, could we do business together?
So you basically say, this is going to be, I'll give you all the same I'll make sure that the quote I'm going to give to you is going to be apples to apples, same protection, same everything. If I come in at this price, roughly, would that constitute a change on your half?
Yeah, assuming the coverage is adequate and at least the same coverage, and would it constitute a change?
So you would basically, whenever you present this stuff to the underwriters, everything was pre-sold. Now, what about if you were to use that line? Because you've talked about this a lot before with me as well, where sometimes you'll go in, you're trying to make the sale, and you could usually tell within 5 minutes that you're not going to make the sale and that the guy or girl is not interested. What would, let's say, for example, you go, well, what would constitute a change? And they go, nah, I don't know. Give me your best price. Talk a little bit about that. When you were getting fluffy answers, you weren't getting. Talk about when you're not able to get the mandate from the client, because that's an important part about this in sales, in insurance, and sales in anything. It's important, and you hammer this into my head. Ask for the mandate. If you can't get a mandate, there's a pretty good chance you're not going to get the business.
No, that's absolutely. But you're not going to, if they don't ask any questions at all, there's no interest.
Yeah.
There's zero.
You ain't getting that.
No.
Yeah.
And when you ask somebody for the mandate and they give you they go, oh yeah, no problem, and they don't ask you any questions, they're lying to you.
Yeah, they're being all fluffy.
You're not getting it.
Yeah.
So if you get the feeling from a lot of the questions that were asked, and you get the feeling, and if you're dealing with a decision maker, which is, by the way, you have to deal with a decision maker because you're dealing with anybody else.
Sales 101. Yeah.
Sales 101. If you're dealing with decision makers are usually owners or CEOs, and they don't really dick you around that much. They basically tell you like it is, and yes or no and whatnot. But if there was no chance of getting a mandate, then I would ask myself, why is there no chance? I've already asked them, and at this point I know who the broker is. I know when they started dealing with the broker, how many years they've been with the broker. That means a lot. Is it your neighbor? Is your golf buddy? I mean, let's face it.
Because if it's your next door neighbor that you play golf with twice a week, you're going to say to yourself, "What the hell am I doing here?"
No, the only way you're going to get that is if you make a mistake on the premium, but sometimes it does happen to where he's been with the same broker for years and years, and the comfort factor between him and his broker is just not in his favor. Yeah. Good for the broker, but not in his favor. So the broker's kind of maybe taken advantage of the relationship and hasn't shopped it, hasn't done his due diligence each year to make sure that the premium is competitive.
Yeah,
and that happens too. And that did happen. And in those cases where it happened, I'd come in and unknowingly I'd be like 50% less. Well, he's got a problem. He's like, what do I do?
And they always look at it and go, what's different about your quote than what I'm paying right now? I've had that before too. And you kind of just go, nothing. This is the same thing. And then they go, shit, I'm getting rinsed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if they're getting rinsed, their broker doesn't get a second chance.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't.
Yeah.
If there's 10 or 20 in this business, 10 or 20% is no problem.
Yeah.
But 50.
Yeah. That's yeah.
But it does happen, and in bigger accounts, they could go from 400,000 to 150,000.
Yeah.
Easily.
So here, Gary, because we're getting off topic. So there's one question, then I got to rewind back to another question. But so when you're unable to get the mandate from a client at the end of a meeting, what do you do?
What do I do?
Yeah.
I get back to the office. I put that on the corner of my desk or wherever it's going to go.
Yeah.
I let it sit there for a week or two, and I'll call up the prospect and tell them I thought about it, and this is my price. I'll just take a price out of my head. A price I can give.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I'll take a price out of my head and I'll say, how does that sound?
I'll be about this.
I'll be about that.
Yeah.
And they'll say, oh, that's roughly what I'm paying, and it's like,
see you later.
See you later. Or they'll say, oh, wow, put that in writing. And at that point, I would ask more questions.
If they say put it in writing, and then because you want to say, okay, I'll put it in writing, no problem. With this price and the same protections, are we going to do business, or am I just putting this in writing so you can take it, show it to your broker, and they match it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting.
Well, okay. I wouldn't say to them, I wouldn't.
I know. I get it.
I wouldn't say to them, are you going to take it and show it to your broker so they can match it? Because it's kind of like confrontational.
But that's probably what they're going to do.
Absolutely. But you want to avoid confrontation.
Of course.
Obviously.
Now, so here, let's rewind back one. We're going to go back one step. The original question or the original conversation that we were having, the 10-cent Tom or whatever it was. So dealing with underwriters. So we were talking about.
Okay. So when I finished Prudential and completed my year's work there, I got my license and got into insurance, and I had maybe 4 insurance companies that I could deal with at the time. So I was limited to the type of business that I could go after, because there's no sense in me going after business that I don't have a market to place it, because I'm wasting my time and I'm wasting the prospect's time as well. So I had Zurich, I had Halifax Industrial Risk in Toronto, I had Prudential, a few other companies, and so I got friends with this guy Richard at he was a field rep at Zurich. I met him, and he was a kind of a chubby, jolly guy. And when I met him, first time I met him, he said to me, he said, yeah, my name's Richard, but you can call me Dickie or you can call me Porky. And I said, call you Porky. I didn't feel it was appropriate because he's fat, right? So, and he says, no, call me Porky. I said, okay, I'll call you Porky. So that was his name. So he would, he golfed. He loved golf. So we'd golf together, and I'd bring up my submissions, and you know, after the golf game, he'd go, okay, this one I agree with, this one's too low, cut your commission in half, this one's whatever. So, and then I started dealing with this Halifax out of Toronto, and there was this guy, Patty. Patty was the underwriter at the time, and they were really aggressive for a while, and he was quoting me. So 3 quotes in a row, he quoted me 10 cents. When I say 10 cents, for the people that aren't in insurance, it's what you do is you take the insurable value, you multiply it by 0.10, which is 10 cents, and you divide it by 100, and that's your premium, because it's 10 cents per 100. So he quoted me really low rates, and I got the business every single time, because who knows what I saved the client, probably a whole pile of money, right? And so Zurich, Richard at Zurich said to me, he goes, hey, 10 cents, that's freaking crazy. It was 2-3 times in a row. So the next time I sent a submission to both companies, again, Porky calls me up and he says, Gar, listen to me. He says, if you have a freaking 10-cent rate from 10-cent Patty, again, take it and don't bother me. So from that day on, he called him 10-cent Patty. So every time I sent something to Zurich, he'd say, did you send it to 10-cent Patty?
Okay, so here, because a lot of people think that you started at KBD. Well, you started Prudential, but you started at KBD, and you worked at KBD Insurance throughout your career. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But before that, while you were working at Killen, Bullard, Devine, what was it like working with your dad, your sister, and your brother? What was that like? What did you like about it? What were the cons? Why did you leave? Let's get into all that, because it's interesting, because a lot of times people, when they work with their family, it's rare that they'll go off on their own. It does happen, but it's more times often than not they're going to stay working in the company with their family, right?
Yeah.
So what happened there? Let's kind of open up this.
Well, they were primarily a home and car shop. They had commercial accounts from brokers that they bought, a few small brokers that they bought, and the commercial accounts ended up staying there, obviously, because they paid for them.
Yeah. And
so they weren't. Donna did commercial. Greg did the home and car.
Home and car, yep.
Yeah, and but Donna wasn't a pure commercial person in the way that out pounding the beat, writing new accounts.
Yeah.
So they were happy, and which is fine. It's the way the way things go, right? They're happy to to service what you have and whatnot. I was hungry for the business. I was like really hungry for business, and I was out looking for business, like out pounding the
You were prospecting.
I was prospecting.
Yeah.
And so I was prospecting, and I was working really hard at it, and I kind of disassociated myself from the daily tasks at the company. Like there was the home and car, which I had nothing to do with. Commercial that Donna had, she handled that, and then I was on my own to place. I was placing the business. When I say placing the business, I was doing my submissions to Underwriters, getting my quotes back. I had support from them when I wasn't there because obviously clients need to be serviced.
Yeah.
So
if you go on vacation.
Yeah, I go on vacation or I'm out on the road.
But for the most part, so you were basically, yes, you were underneath the banner of KBD Insurance, but you were working for yourself.
More or less, yes.
Got it.
Exactly. So I was thinking I wanted to go on my own because I wanted to do things the way I wanted to do them. I wasn't in agreement with the way everything was done in the office.
What weren't you in agreement with?
I wasn't in an agreement with the way that the commercial business was run. I didn't feel as if I had enough support or expertise. I won't say support. They supported me. I didn't have enough expertise in the office to help me out because I was new at it. I was there. There was new insurance.
Yeah.
I didn't have enough expertise to go out to enable me to enhance my capabilities of writing insurance. Selling more insurance.
But then you went off on your own, so you didn't have the expertise there either.
Well, went off on my own, but now I'm free to hire who I want.
Got it.
So
you had that constraint at KBD. So if you want to hire someone to help support you in the commercial insurance department, you guys just didn't have the cash flow to do that.
No, exactly. They would if I needed somebody to be my support person, like 100% with my work. I didn't have that, so I was I was able to make my own decisions. So when I went on my own, I hired who I wanted, and expertise, salespeople, and that worked better for me like that.
Do you feel that while you were working at KBD, that you guys were aligned as a team in terms of the vision of where the company was going?
No. What
were you not aligned with?
There was really not much discussion on it. It was a mom and pop shop where everybody kind of did their own thing.
What was the vision of the company?
To grow, but how, other than me? And that's what when I looked at it, I said to myself, the growth potential in this company is from my sales. It's not from anything else.
And were they growing in home and car insurance or not really?
Not really.
Here and there, a couple.
Maybe here and there.
If the phone rang, they'd answer.
Exactly, but there was no
prospecting.
There was no plan to. It was run like most other brokers run their shop. Not to criticize it.
No, I get it.
But it was just run like that. So I thought to myself, the growth in this company is going to come from me, from nowhere else, and I wanted to keep growing it and growing it and growing it and growing it. So I said to myself, you know what? I might as well just go and do it on my own. I get to hire who I want, run it the way I want, grow the way I want, put the money in my pocket the way I want.
Why did you want to grow the company?
Why?
Yeah, because there's two types of people. There's a person that, well, first of all, it takes a certain type of person, and I'm not one of these people, but it takes a certain type of person to go off on their own. I was lucky I got dealt a good deck of cards. And there's another type of person that just wants to collect a paycheck.
Yep.
And so what is it about you that made you want to go and grow a company? Because you hit a certain point. You don't need more money. You can live.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, at a certain point, which is roughly $80,000 per person or somewhere around there.
Yeah. I think it's a little more now because of inflation.
Or 90 or whatever.
Call
it with 90,000 or 80,000.
Yeah.
That at that level, and there's studies on this that prove it. That's your base salary, max salary for happiness.
Yeah.
In other words, going forward, happiness doesn't scale with salary.
Yeah.
an increase in salary.
It's once you have enough to basically support your day-to-day costs. Once you have enough, you don't have to worry about the next paycheck or your next meal.
Yeah.
In North America, typically you're fine.
Exactly.
And it's actually interesting because in other countries too, a lot of times, like if you're really poor and people from the West will go to these countries and they'll look at these people and they're dirt poor, but they're so happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of times they're happier than the rich guy sitting in the mansion up on the hill in Beverly Hills or something.
Absolutely.
You know, he's got this to worry about. His wife's cheating on him. He's got like all this shit to kind of,
absolutely. So. Well, there's something called, I call it my own, I make it up. It's called the paradox of luxury. What is meant to be luxurious basically ends up enslaving you and boxing you in and limits you. And this is something we could take from the Romans, because the Romans conquered, they enslaved, and then people that they enslaved grew accustomed to the Roman way of life because it was they had roads and running water and whatnot. And so the people that they enslaved basically were in a position where they limited themselves what to do because they couldn't get out of it. And it's not unlike technology today for certain people, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It enslaves you.
Yeah.
And that's, anyways, we're getting off.
Yeah, we're going on a tangent again.
We're going on a tangent.
Yeah, it's like we just took like a weed gummy and shrooms or something.
Yeah.
Kind of, or LSD. What were we talking about again? Man?
What was that? Yeah.
Okay, so no, but we're talking about, so you have, I have my own opinion on this, but I guess it's a philosophical type of question. Why do you want to, back in the day, why did you want to grow a company?
Well, there's various reasons for that. Number one, I want to have a better standard of living, and I want to have security. So I have two kids and a wife at the time.
Yep.
I want to have enough money to have a house, to provide an education for you guys, provide a good quality of life for the whole family, to save up for retirement, to the normal things that why people want to make more money. And the other part of it, I would say, is I'm competitive, and I like.
Yeah, this is what I was going for, because everyone wants that.
Exactly. Well, I'm competitive, and I love a challenge. I didn't look at work as a fear thing. I was never afraid or fearful of failure or fearful of not making enough money. To me, it was a challenge. And after a while, when the company did well, I didn't need more money. And when I went out and hired more people, and I'd go out and help sales or sell myself to get more accounts, to me it was more of a challenge. Mm-hmm. It was the challenging part of it. And I really do believe, and to this day, and I enjoyed the business. The part that I enjoyed the most was selling. And selling was a little bit different than it is today. It was face-to-face, so it would take hours and days to put your stuff together and to close a deal. But, sorry, but when you close the deal, it was a great feeling of accomplishment, and you're basically completing a task. That's a dopamine hit. Mm-hmm. And you're increasing your dopamine in a natural way, and there's other natural ways to do it, like exercise, intimate conversations with friends and family, music, art, creating art, listening to music, all kinds of
sex, food, drugs, all.
But the drugs, I call it an unnatural way. Sex is not natural, obviously. Yeah. Food, chocolate, sugar, to a point. It increases dopamine level. Well, there's increases which are natural, and there's spikes which are unnatural. Yeah. And when your increases, you're kind of going a little bit ways like that. That's fine. When you spike it,
we're getting off topic again here, Gary.
Just for a second. When you spike it, that's the problem, because what goes up must come down. Yeah. And the more you do it, like if you're onto Coke, whatever. Your first time you do Coke, it goes up like this, comes back down. But the more you do Coke, the shorter and weaker the spikes get, but the longer and stronger the deficits get. Yeah. So you end up feeling like shit, and that then causes addictions and cravings and everything else. So
yeah. Cool. So the answer is basically just the fact that you're competitive. That's why you. Yeah,
you just it's challenging. You like to think you can do a better job than
it's kind of like, would you agree with this? I feel sometimes, not sometimes, this is what I actually feel like, where running a business, it's like a sports league. Because sometimes people ask, well, what is winning? And winning in business, there's no hard answer. Winning is X. It's just enjoying the process. And for example, someone asked me this once. They go, well, why do you want to win? Why do you want to grow your company? I go, I don't know. Why does Sidney Crosby want to win the Stanley Cup? Why does Michael Jordan want to win the NBA championship? I don't know. This is just kind of in my DNA, and it's fun. And if I was to go to work every day and just sit there and just let the business run, oh my God, that'd be so boring.
For sure.
But
going back to what I was saying, every time you accomplish something and you complete a goal, it's like check,
Yeah,
those are all dopamine hits.
Yeah, it feels nice.
It feels good. It makes you feel good.
Yeah, and I'm trying to work on not to get the dopamine from that, but to get the dopamine from the process itself. Yeah, that's the fun part.
Yeah, and you don't want it to become a craving or an addiction, because when you crave something, you're never going to get enough. It's like you get it and you want more, and it's like, okay, if you don't appreciate it, and sorry, go ahead.
No, don't be sorry. Okay, cool. So you want to grow your business. You went off on your own.
Yep.
You went off on your own in 1994?
1991.
1991, okay. And then so when you went off, so you're working at KBD Insurance, Killen, Ballard, Devine, it was referred to at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you took your book of business that you had.
Yep.
Did you have to buy it off of Frank?
We agreed.
Okay,
I was able to take it.
Yeah. Nice thing about working with family. If
great.
he wasn't your father, I doubt that would have happened.
No, it wouldn't happen. No.
So you went off on your own, 1991. Tell us about what it was like, because there's a lot of people out there, and I would say today is more difficult to start a business as an insurance broker, because
I would say so.
How do I say this? The big brokers have economies of scale.
Mm-hmm.
And today, that's why there's fewer and fewer mom and pop shops, and you see fewer and fewer insurance brokers starting up. So I think, but there are still people that want to start up. So when you were starting Group Techni Assure, or at the time when you first started your commercial insurance brokerage, it was referred to as Gary Killen and Associates, I think. No, you changed it to Group Techni Assure later.
You're right, actually.
It was Gary Killen and Associates, I believe, at the beginning.
You're right.
And then, so talk to us about, starting, not starting, you had a little base already, but, you're on your own. Talk to us about that. What was that like?
It was a challenge, but I had 3 good companies that I started with. I had Chubb, Zurich, and Prudential at the time. So those 3 companies supported me a lot, and I had good relationships with underwriters and management, each company. And I had one employee was my backup. Like when I wasn't there,
Liberta.
Yeah, Liberta. Yeah.
She still works in the industry.
Yeah, she still works. She works for Fort. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Yeah.
She did the accounting. She was like my right hand person at the time.
Yeah.
And so she and I just was on the road. She was in the office taking the phone calls. There wasn't that many phone calls because I didn't have that many accounts. They were all good size accounts. And I went out on the road and I just
no cell phones back then, right? So
no,
you're just
no cell phones at all. So I just went out and and I went on the road and I knocked on doors and went to places that I thought I could solve their problem, and I looked at myself as a problem solver and like that's what I thought about it. I said, you're running your company, you have a problem. If you have a problem, I can fix it. And the problem would be you don't have your coverage is not good enough. You're paying too much. Whatever.
You're not properly covered.
You're not properly covered. So I looked at myself as a problem solver, and I go in and basically tell the person, if you have a problem, I'm here to solve it. I'm here to provide benefits, and let's go for it.
What was your mindset starting the business?
My mindset was I didn't have a lot of huge goals when I first started. It was just to get organized. Like my first year was to get the feel of how to run your own business, get the feel of what it's like to be out there, and having basically you're the owner, CEO, you're calling all the shots, and then maybe after the first year, I started thinking, okay, who am I going to hire now? And what?
You were 91. You were how old?
34.
Okay, that's my age.
Yeah.
That's when you started. Cool.
Yeah. 57.
I'm a little bit ahead of you.
Yeah, 34. But that's where I was at. And then in 91, then I hired a few salespeople. I got a Lloyd's contract.
Yeah.
In 90, I was dealing with some MGAs. MGAs are
managing general agents.
Managing general agents that have their own Lloyd's contracts that sell to the retail market, which is I'm a retail broker. And so I ended up going to London, probably about 96 would be 96, 97. I got Lloyd's contracts. I go to London, convince them to give me a contract, and it was my 1 year working at Prudential or 6 months working in the commercial department that enabled me to get a Lloyd's contract, because I was talking to the Lloyd's, the head guy, the syndicate, the underwriter syndicate, and we're out having a drink, which we had a few drinks at Lloyd's back then. And he looked at me and he said to me, he goes, "You're not a broker." I said, "No." He goes, "You're an underwriter,"
which they like.
Which they liked,
Yeah.
and I got a contract.
Nice.
And he goes, "You don't think like a broker, you don't talk like a broker." He goes, "You're an underwriter." And it just happened to be that the Prudential building, or at the time it was Aviva or whatever, I don't remember exactly, was right across the street from the Lloyd's building, and that's where I started my business,
Interesting.
my career.
So you start off in the 90s, you end up getting a Lloyd's contract. As a broker, you definitely had some success.
Yeah.
What would you say was I don't want to go just the only contributing factor to why you had success, but you're 91 by, you had the heyday years right after 9/11 up until, let's say, 2004.
Yeah, from the market started to tighten in the late 90s, 99, 2000.
And then 9/11 hit.
Yeah, the market was capacity was shrinking before 9/11, and then 9/11 hit was like boom.
Yeah. But, okay, so what do you think some of the reasons why your company had success?
I had good support with underwriters. I had good backup in the office, somebody working really hard. And I didn't mind selling. I enjoyed selling. And the more you sell, the bigger you get. And
you were selling up until what point?
I probably sold up until 9/11.
Okay.
And then I did
up until 2001, and then you hired people to basically help with the sales.
I had people there I hired people late 90s, and I didn't have to sell after that, because after 9/11 it was so easy to write business. It was incredible.
Yeah. And so to put this into perspective, by 9/11 you were basically more or less 100% commercial. You were going after mid-market accounts.
Yeah.
And then so at your peak you had what, $6 million under management, $7 million under management?
Yeah, just under $7 million.
Just under $7 million. Okay. And you're making nice commissions, good profit sharing checks,
fees,
yeah. The whole kit and caboodle, all that kind of stuff.
Well, but figure this way: 7 million sales at high commission, because Lloyd's pays 25% commission.
Yeah.
With 1, 2, 3, 5 employees.
Lean.
Pretty lean.
And I wanted to ask you this here, because it's like, you definitely had success, but how come you never really attempted to scale the office? Get like 20, 30, 40, 50, go to the next. Do you think it's because when I'll be really straight with you. What I see when I look at you, you're an excellent salesperson. I don't know how good your brain is not fully organized when it comes to like managing a bigger team. That's what I've noticed. And I don't mean this as an insult.
You're probably right.
Your strength is definitely put me in the arena. I will sell the hell out of anything. I'll be really good at that. And group technisure, it never really matured from what I can see. I feel like it never really matured past the point where it's basically there offering you a support network. Because you were always very hands-on. Throughout your whole career, you were very hands-on insurance broker. And there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Well, but that holds you back from growth. You hit a plateau.
Let's talk about this, because there are some people that they can't let go of that, and I think that I want to kind of dive into this because we have more people, because you were I think you recognize your mistakes looking back at it. You're getting ready to retire pretty soon. I think you recognize your mistakes, and one of the things at the beginning that you're always trying to engrave into my head was, don't get involved with the clients. Don't get involved with the clients. Delegate, 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 delegate. And I think one of the reasons why you would always say this to me is because that's a mistake, not mistake, but that's something that you wish you had maybe done differently.
You're absolutely right.
So let's talk about this.
Well, first of all, I don't have regrets, because who's to say that the alternative would have been any better?
Yeah.
But you're 100% right. If I had to do it all over again, I would have delegated more back then, and I would have grown the company, or I would have had a team, beneath me and well taken care of to grow the company. I didn't put enough work, time, and effort into hiring people that knew more than I did, which is a key. You need to hire people that know more than you do, at least in certain areas, and go from there. And I didn't put enough effort into that, and I was too busy.
Do you think you didn't put enough effort into that because you didn't want to have someone who knew more than you did in the office? Was it an ego thing?
No,
or was it?
No, not at all.
No, it was just because I'm too busy with my clients. I got enough of a headache anyways.
Yeah, not at all. And I was making good money, so like the account was going, hey, things are going great and whatnot. So, but then I tried. I hired a bunch of people. I trained them to get their license and all that. But I mean, it was then, and I realized how hard it is to sell commercial insurance.
Is it ever, man? Is it ever?
Yeah. And I used to walk into the office. I'd say to Liberta when I had people working there, I go, well, how come they can't just do this, can do that, And she looked at me and she said, you don't realize how good you are at what you do. And she said, you think it's easy for everybody. She said, it's not. It doesn't come easy for everybody. She said, it's a really difficult thing.
To sell commercial insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From scratch.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's not easy to do, And I have a lot of faults, and I wasn't good at a lot of things, but just happened to be that I was just good at that, at selling insurance. And I understood it. I got it, and I was personable enough to have the relationships or develop relationships to sell the insurance, and it worked. But that's why I told you from day one, like you said, don't deal with the clients.
Yeah.
Delegate this, delegate that.
I think I've done pretty well at that.
You've done an amazing job at that. Yeah, exactly. And
thank you for that.
Welcome.
And I think that something that brokers need to be prepared to do, because this is going to happen, and I've spoken to other commercial insurance brokers, or just brokers in general as well. If you're ready to take that step, to go to the next step and go, okay, I want to prioritize growing the company over handling the clients. You still obviously want to take care of the clients, but you'll give it to someone who you think will take care of them best.
Absolutely.
But this is probably going to happen. You got to be prepared for them to leave, because they might leave.
Yes.
And sometimes, I'd say oftentimes they do.
Yes.
They go, I'm not dealing with Gary anymore. Fuck this. I'm out of here.
Yep.
I want to deal with Gary. I don't want to deal with your little minion. I want to deal with Gary.
Yep.
So Gary doesn't take these calls anymore.
Yep.
And so I think a lot of brokers need to kind of just accept that. Mm-hmm. And one tip that I do all the time is
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just finish with this. One tip that I will do, so that it doesn't bother you as much in your own head. So like, let's say you're going to lose a $50,000 account or $100,000 account, brings in $20,000 of revenue. I do the math and I go, okay, so $20,000, yeah, it's not nothing. But then you look at the math, you look at the revenue of the office, the operations, and you kind of go, okay, what's the overall percentage of the KBD Insurance's revenue that I could potentially lose by delegating this to someone else? And obviously, I'm not saying it's not like you're tossing the account to the wolves. You're trying to give it to someone who you think you don't want to lose the account. But when you actually run that calculation, you go, okay, so I'm at risk to lose 0.01% of the company's revenue over the course of the year. And when you start looking at it that way, it kind of opens up your eyes. You go, okay, well, it is what it is. Prepare for the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is you're going to lose the account. Once you accept that and you get comfortable with that, you go, okay, well, I got to do what's best for the company.
Yep.
I think what's best for the company right now is for me to stop taking care of this and look at it more of a strategic point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move forward with this. That's what I always kind of found helped for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, the key also is that if you're out selling insurance, make sure that you don't service it at all. And when I worked at the people that bought me a Fort, and I was selling, I would go and see the prospect, make the sale, and I would tell them, you don't want to be served by me because I'm shit at service. Like I'm not good at service at all. I have a team behind me, and they'll take care of you better than I will. And if you say it like that, there's no problem. And I'd say, disaster happens and you're not getting whatever service you need. I said, if you want to call me up, I'm there. But I'm basically out of the picture. So you're delegating everything from day one.
Smart.
And
set the client expectations right off the bat.
Yes, exactly. It's like it has to be said at the very beginning, because it's like making a sale. When you go and meet the client, there's high risk questions and there's low risk questions. You can't ask a high risk question 3 days into the process. It has to be asked right away.
Yep.
And a high risk question is mandate.
Yeah.
Try to ask a mandate like a week later. The guy's gonna look at you and they're gonna laugh,
Yeah.
But so you realize this is high risk, this is low risk. High risk, ask right away.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so you ran Group Technischer. You had a team. Got up to what? I think you're the most 8 employees, 6.
Max was 1, 2, 3, 7.
What was it like when you hired your friends to be salesmen?
It was kind of cool, actually.
It didn't pan out, but
I tried.
Yeah, you tried.
I tried.
Did it hurt any of your friendships?
No.
I don't think it did. Huh?
No.
Okay.
No, it didn't.
That's nice.
Yeah, I tried, and I tried something completely different.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to spend X amount of money on this, and I'm going to get people trained, and put an ad in the paper, and you want to sell learn insurance, come on in. You get salary, training, everything, and not one of them stayed in the business. Sorry, one did.
Well, that's just how hard it is.
Yeah.
And then so you ran the business, you ran Group Technischer, and then around 2006, you sold in 2006?
January 2007.
Okay, so January 2000. Let's talk about this, the transaction. So Group Technischer, a 100% commercial insurance brokerage, sold to 99, whatever.
Yeah.
Sold to Fort Insurance.
Yep.
Which is still existing today.
Yep.
Still running today.
Yep.
Let's talk about this transaction.
The story was this. I had the best Lloyd's contracts for the size of broker that I was in probably the province of Quebec. And when I say the best, I had capacity, property capacity, and liability contract that could write U.S. sales, U.S. exposure. I said I could do it all. So the owner at Fort wanted to enhance his contracts, which he had a little small contract for $1 million TIV value kind of thing. So my broker in London called me up, and he goes, "Gary, how you doing?" So I'm like, "Okay, fine." He says, "I'm going to ask you a question." He goes, "But I think I know the answer." I said, "Ask the question." And he said, "There's a broker in downtown Montreal, and he wants me to go shop he wants me to get him better contracts in London." He says, "But you can nix it if you want." And I said, "Who's the broker?" So he told me the broker. I said, "Well, no, because why would I say yes? It's just increasing my competition."
Of
right?
course, yeah.
Of course. So I had the authority to nix it, and I did. I said no. He said, "I'd do the same thing if I were you," but because I had to ask.
Yeah. That's polite.
Yeah. And so then about 3 months later, I was approached by Fort to buy my business. And so he said, he made me an offer to buy the business. And I said, not interested. And he said, "Okay, fine." Calls me a week or two later, and he said, "I want to get together with you." He goes, "I have a new offer for you." I said, "Okay." So we got together, and he made me a new offer, which was better than the first one. I said, "Let me think about it." So I went back to him. I said, if you do that plus this and this and this and this, I figured I have nothing to lose. If he doesn't mind, if he says no, I don't want to sell anyways. So I was in a win-win situation. So he said, I'll do it. So I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna sell my business and you know, but I got everything that I wanted, and I justified selling it because I had a hard time getting more employees to work there, to grow the book. There was like same as nowadays, there wasn't a lot of good people around.
I wasn't old enough yet.
You weren't old enough. Well, you were like
18.
18. You weren't old enough yet. So I thought to myself, and not only that, the premiums after 9/11 went sky high, especially for liability, especially if you had U.S. sales.
Yeah.
The premiums were in the stratosphere. The rates were in the stratosphere. So in 2006, 2004, the market started getting a little bit softer. End of 2004, 2005, more softer. The rates were on their way down. So rates were on their way down. Machine shops were closing because of China, and that's what I did. We insured mostly machine shops. So I thought to myself, you know what? Machine shop sales are closing, rates are going down.
The macro environment was not favorable to...
Exactly. So I said, done.
Sure, take it.
Take it. And so I got a payout up front and another payout after 4 years because I had a contract there for 3 years, which turned out to be 4 years. And I had no regrets. I enjoyed working at Fort. Great group of people, good support. And then I worked, I finished my contract and I left. I was out of insurance for a year, putzing around. And
yeah, you were just down in Florida.
Down in Florida, back and forth. And I said to myself, I want to get back into this game. I'm 49 years old. I'm not ready to retire, like to not, to retire my profession. And so I started looking around. I made a few calls to brokers in the area. I had one that said, okay, you can buy half of me, but I didn't want half. I wanted all of it. And then my brother Greg, which owned KBD, he was running KBD on his own, with him and his wife and his daughter. He approached me and said, Garrett, he goes, I'm out of this business. I said, oh, okay. He goes, do you want to buy it? I said, yeah, sure.
Yeah, but they were personal lines. Why did you buy it?
It was a way for me to get back into the business.
But you didn't know anything about personal lines.
That's me. I didn't worry about it. I said, I'll find somebody to work there. I'll find a way to grow it, and I'll get out and start commercial myself. And that's what I did. So
what was that here before we kind of go on to KBD, or like just when you came back? What did can you talk about back in the day? I think you know what the question is. When you first started your career, and Lorenzetti came into your office and said, hey, he made you an offer to come. This is back when BFL had just started. BFL Canada had just started as well. Or they were a couple years older.
Yeah, that
Gary
would have
Killen
been probably 93.
So you had just started. You're 2 years into your career on your own, and he said, hey, come work for me.
Yeah. He approached me, came into the office, and he said he offered me like back then it was like 1 or 1.5 times commissions. Like now it's like crazy.
Okay, but to the best of your correct recollection, can you kind of just talk about like this interaction that you had with Barry?
Oh, he walked into the office and
called you up.
Called me up, and he knew an underwriter that worked at Chubb, and when underwriter said to Chubb this about me, this guy started his own business. He's a hustler, blah blah blah, blah and whatnot. Maybe he could work well with you, kind of thing, So he approached me, came into the office. He said, sat down, and he said, I'm willing to buy your business. Come and work for us. And made me an offer of whatever. I said, no thanks. And
on the spot?
Yeah.
Said, I'm good?
Yeah. Yeah. I said, no thanks. And I said, I just started my business. I mean,
Yeah, you want to see what it was like.
Yeah, I mean, in retrospect.
Dip your foot in the water.
In retrospect, I mean, who knows where I would have been at Lorenzetti. It's a big account, a big broker with a lot of support, a lot of markets and whatnot. So, I like to sell. I mean, that's what I love to do, and I probably would have done okay with it.
I know you always say you never have any regrets. You don't regret that, eh?
Nope.
Do you think had you taken that deal, you would have had the quality of life not the quality of life, the freedom that you had of being a sole proprietor of your own insurance firm?
I don't think I would have had the freedom, no.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't have.
No, I wouldn't have.
Because you were able to go play golf whenever you wanted. Like,
Exactly.
and no, you got your shit done. I'm not saying you were just out playing golf all the time, but
Yeah.
if the day was done, okay, I'm gonna go play some golf. I made 2 sales this week. I'm out of here. Kind of.
Yeah. Unless I would have went there, got into bigger accounts, which interested me a lot also, and get support back then. And and let's face it, if you got a broker, a sales guy selling like crazy, and they're never there, but the support is behind them, and in the big picture, they're still making a lot of money off you. So
Yeah. Interesting.
yeah.
I would have paid to have seen that interaction, to go back in time just to see what it was like.
Oh, it was a good meeting.
I'm sure it was.
There's no animosity between the two of us whatsoever.
No. That's of course. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
of course,
it was good. He came in and nice guy.
Well, that's
very
when I
presentable.
when I reached out to him and said, hey, I'd like to come pick your brain. Can I come pick your brain? And when first thing he said when I walked in, you're Gary Killen's son? I said, yeah, because I wouldn't have taken this meeting if you weren't his son. So I said, I'll let him know that. Okay, so you're out of the business. Group technician, sure. So you start off in KBD, you left, took your business with you. You worked on your own for, let's say, 15, 17 years. You sold that business to Fort Insurance.
Yep.
Still a predominantly commercial insurance broker. Present today, they're located in Westmount.
Yep.
You're getting the itch. You had your cash. You're putzing around, doing whatever, playing golf, this, that. You're getting the itch to come back into the insurance game. This is around 2009, 2010.
Mm-hmm.
You go up to your brother, Greg, who's now running KBD Insurance. Greg says, Gary, I want to get out of here. You buy KBD Insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you buy KBD Insurance? What's the real reason why you bought KBD Insurance? I know you're saying, well, because I was bored. What are some other reasons why you bought KBD Insurance? There's got to be other reasons why you bought KBD.
I bought KBD Insurance solely to get back into the business. It was my in to get back into the business, and I figured I could, grow the personal lines, get my Lloyd's contracts back, which I did.
Yeah,
we did at that point. And start over again. And I would have done it. I said to myself, start over again. I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to do it. I'll start it off, and then I'll hire people and salespeople and whatnot, and delegate more than I did before, and go from there. But it was my in to get back into the business.
This is going to sound super arrogant on my part. If I wasn't around, because you assumed that I was going to work in insurance. If I wasn't around, you think you would have bought KBD?
I still would have bought it.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I still
good for you.
I still would have bought it.
I'm not trying to be a cocky asshole right now. It's just for, I know that for.
I get it, but because I wanted to get back in. Yeah, you were in the back of my head. Obviously, you're going to come in and help me with do whatever. But I still would have bought it. I mean, I was too young to retire from a profession.
Yeah. That's interesting. I still remember when the story of when you're like, okay, when we're in Baderfe and we're raking leaves, and then this is literally the story. Yeah, this for the viewers. This is the story of how I got started in insurance. We're raking leaves in the backyard, and he goes, hey, are you interested in working in insurance? Hey, KBD is doing well. It'd be really cool for you to come work. We could really use your help. And you just go, okay, it's a Friday. Curtis, you're gonna start on Monday. I'm going to get a list. You're going to be cold calling people around the area. We'll get you to pass the exams. You'll be up and running in no time. And it did. It worked. This was in September or October of 2009. No, 2011. And then by 2012, beginning 2012, I had my broker license. That was interesting. Very interesting.
It worked well.
Because you didn't train me at all. It's just I find it.
I didn't train you in personal lines?
No, I find it really funny how you just bought, because you're a commercial insurance guy, and you bought a personal lines office, and then when I came to work here, it's like, all right, go. I go, well, I don't know anything. Well, neither do I. So go. That's kind of what it was like.
You learned pretty well.
Yeah. It turned out all right. But yeah, that was pretty interesting. And
I mean, for me, the best way for anybody to learn anything is to get them out and doing it and make your mistakes. And like I'm all, in today's technology, I'm still for not only doing this, but I'm still for brokers doing cold calls. And the reason why is not because I believe in the cold call concept and not all the technology and all the kind of stuff. It's because it enhances your skill level
as a salesperson. Yes.
And because you get to deal with rejection, objection, and you have to be able to address all that,
to overcome the objections.
Yes.
And as you know, sales, if you have a 35% closing ratio,
mm-hmm.
which is good,
mm-hmm.
think about that. 2 out of 3 people are going to say no.
Yeah.
Yeah. So most people are rejecting you.
Yes. Yeah. And I always use the analogy in baseball. If you're a 333 hitter in baseball, you're getting one hit, you're having one success in every 3 at bats, you're a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Basically, but you're Hall of Famer, but you're failing 2 out of 3 times.
Yeah.
Every single game.
I would definitely agree with that statement that it's important. Like, look, on the sales side, it's important to keep your skills sharp. You should be talking to people a lot. You should be practicing those skills.
Yes.
To get past objections, to get past people that, if someone's not interested, they're not interested. But sometimes you can make people interested. But I believe in a hybrid system. I don't believe in a company that a company that's 100% online and they never speak to anyone. That's not good for sales either. Humans are still humans at the end of the day.
Yes.
And if you call someone up, for example, if I was to call someone up for their insurance, or you were to call someone up like a warm lead or something like that,
mm-hmm.
that's going to be way more effective than just waiting for that person to call. If they fill out a form online for a car insurance quote and waiting for them to call,
for sure,
you got to call these people.
Absolutely.
Up. You got to speak to them.
Yeah.
And
I mean, the way for somebody to learn anything is to put themselves in an uncomfortable position a fair amount of the time.
Yeah.
It's like it's like I'm a big believer in cryotherapy, cold water showers and cold baths. It's you're exposing your body to pain in a way. I'm not a masochist or anything, but you're exposing your body to something that's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it creates resilience. And when you're cold calling, there's a good chance where you hang up the phone, or you're gonna get rejected or whatever it is. And it's a learning experience.
Tell us the story about the time when you first started your business and you were down in the dumps and you hit a really big roadblock when you were starting off in your business.
Oh, it was the first year in business, and as I said, my first year in business, I was just trying to get my feet underneath me on solid ground and whatnot, and I sold a big account. Well, a big account for me back, it was like $130,000 or $140,000 account.
It's a nice account back then, back in the early 90s. It's nice.
Nice account,
yeah.
20% commission and the whole bit. And so I got a little cocky, So this business is going to be really easy. And I had that account, a few other accounts, and I didn't do as well as I could have done, maybe because I was a little cocky or arrogant, whatever. And that renewal came up for that account, first renewal, and ordinarily I kept everything. I didn't, and it came up with the first renewal, and it was a location in the U.S. that they didn't do the recommendations, and he got a quote from one of the mutuals, and the mutual said, "Well, you have 2 years to do the rec," and so he switched. So I lost the business, and it hurt. It's like, I just lost $28,000 out of that I was expecting to get, which I didn't get, and I felt, and I lost another account the same day. Well, maybe a $20,000 account, whatever. And
what was the second account? Wasn't that he ended up giving it to one of his family member or something like that, right?
Family member, yeah.
Yeah.
He goes, Gary, nothing to do with you. He goes,
I got to give it to someone else. Sorry.
So got into the business. I got to give it. So one day I lost 2 accounts. I hadn't lost 1 account all year. So it was like, it kind of hit me like, holy shit, So I went back to the office, and I was going, okay, what am I?
And what was the feeling that you had there? Did you kind of?
It's like an empty feeling.
Yeah.
It's like you lost something, It's like a feeling of loss.
It's a little bit. It's kind of a little bit of a panic. It's a little bit of you're pissed. You're angry. There's a little bit of
Yeah, well, first of all, it's a feeling of loss.
Yeah.
And you're a little bit pissed because...
But do you get that panic? Did you get the panic feeling? Like I get a panic feeling sometimes.
Not a panic feeling, just
No?
just like a low feeling in your stomach.
Okay.
It's like feeling
Shit.
like you feel like it's shit, feeling a loss, So
oof.
I'm saying to myself, holy shit, what happens if I lose a few more like that? And
that's what I'm talking about, the panic right there.
And so I'm sitting in my desk at my office, and it was like 5 or 6 o'clock, whatever, and I'm feeling like shit, and I'm thinking, I got to do this, I got to do that, and whatnot. So I go into my...
And sorry to cut you off again, like I'm 3 years old. You got two babies. So you're thinking about that too, I'm sure. Going,
for sure.
Man, I got a family to support here. Like, what's...
Yeah, absolutely. I started, and then so I go into my drawer, and there was a magazine called Rough Notes. It was a U.S. publication, of insurance magazine publication. So I take it out of the drawer, and I'm just flipping pages, and I come to the Teddy Roosevelt speech, his wartime speech, and I read it, and it inspired me.
It was as if it was sent from God for the situation that you were in.
That's exactly what happened. Yeah. And
isn't it strange how things like that happen?
Yeah, it was like the last line was that this world shall never be for those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. The credit belongs to the gladiator that's in the arena, that's face is marred with dust and sweat. Anyway, so it inspired me. And I said, okay, I gotta get going, gotta get back on it woke me up, kind of thing. And I had that was in September 1st. I had that account and more made up by December 31st.
Because you got on your ass, came in the next day, got on the blower, and started calling a bunch of...
It woke me up. And from that day on, I needed that, actually.
So it's probably a good thing that it happened.
It was great. It was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And it got me going, and then the rest, I started selling, and everything worked out well,
It's interesting how that happens. It's kind of the same thing going on with our opening in Ontario, and just how the structure is going to come and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where it's, I want that challenge. I want that extra challenge. It's fun. Where there's some consequences if you don't succeed.
Yeah.
And the consequences being me losing chunks of the business. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, you need to challenge yourself. I mean, you want to put yourself in a position of success. You don't want to challenge yourself where there's a 1 in 10 chance you're gonna make it. But you want to put the odds in your favor. And
so we're almost at we've gone through the whole timeline of Gary Killen's insurance career. Now we're working something out for you to get out of here.
Yep.
For you to walk off into the sunset.
Yep.
What's next for Gary Killen?
What's next?
Yeah, what's next?
I'm not gonna lie on the beach because I'll burn. What's next for me?
Yeah.
Is I'm going to help you grow Ontario.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to do it on a part-time basis.
Okay.
And I'll get on the blower.
Okay.
And I'll contact Ontario brokers for you.
I asked for that list, by the way. So if anyone, we're looking to acquire insurance brokers, just for those of you listening. It's no secret. I like letting people know that we're interested. We have financing in place. So not a problem.
Yeah, I'm ready to do that. But the same thing I did for it. I'll open the door. I'll get in.
Yeah.
And then the team comes in after that.
Well, I think it would be good for you to call, because a lot of the people that are ready to retire are going to be your age. Yeah, you're going to relate to someone who's better than I will.
Exactly.
Some people might look at me and just go, it could go one of two ways. You're a kid, you don't know what you're doing. The other way could go, oh wow, this kid's hustling. I'm going to give this kid a chance because I like him. It could go one of two ways. You don't know. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it could go absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't mind doing a bit of that.
Yeah.
And I would enjoy it.
Yeah. It's been like for a lot of people kind of also the fact that we I guess we work together, but we never really worked together. You'd help me out here and there, but you were never really directly my boss. Like you were my boss on paper, but you were very good at throughout KBD kind of just
let you run.
Yeah, letting me do my own thing.
Yeah, I take your 5 phone calls a day.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like 3, but whatever.
Sometimes 7.
No. Yeah. Yeah. I still remember the one time when we were it was at the office on St. Charles, and we're sitting there, and I remember this so vividly. And I answered the phone. I thought it was someone else. I was getting pissed off at someone in the office for something, and I answered the phone. I go, what? And it happened to be a client. And hi. I went, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I thought it was someone else. Anyway, so I go on with the quote. I got out of that one there, smoothed it over. I go, I'm so sorry. I should have answered like that. Okay, no problem. Go through. It was a home insurance quote. And she was insured with Bel Air, and she lived in the West Island. So I go through the whole quote, finish it up. And you were sitting in the room the whole time, like right over there, just standing, just with this stern look on your face. And I got off the phone, and you just ripped me a new asshole, just basically saying, number one, why did you pick up the phone like that? I go, well, you heard me, and I didn't do that on purpose. Never answer the phone like that. Number two, you didn't ask for the business at the end of the call. I went, oh, sorry. And this is I'm like 3 months into the job. I don't know anything. Number three, that's not how groundwater sewer coverage works. It works like this. You need to know your products better. And you just start ripping into me as I'm like I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, man. I'm trying my best here to sell the insurance.
I don't remember that.
I do. Just basically just tore me a new asshole.
Well, it must have worked, right?
Yeah, I could take it. I mean, you weren't wrong about the stuff. Like, you need to know your products better, and you were right. I did need to know my products better, and so sometimes people people need a kick in the ass. Everyone reacts differently.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that was I remember that story there, and then the other one too, where you helped me out a lot was the whole day. Remember in the first, because the office was a shit show basically. When I came into the office, it was a shit show.
Yep.
And I took care of the whole office in like for a whole week.
Yeah.
I think I had a month experience.
You were on your own.
Yeah.
And you did well.
I don't know if I did well. I did well considering this.
Well, you did well considering the circumstances.
Yeah. We handled it. Well, if it wasn't for the underwriters at Intact, I would not have been able to complete that. They were the ones that helped me. Every call, because you couldn't help me, right? No. Like, you understand the product and how insurance works. The back end and making actual transactions, you had no idea how to do that.
No.
So that's where the underwriters had to help me out.
Not a clue.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Intact's, they've been pretty good actually.
Yeah, Intact has been a great partner to work with.
From day one. I remember when I went when you started or before you started. Dennis Furlong, he's since retired. He came to me and said, "We have this new concept that we're doing where leads come into the office and we farm them out to our best brokers and one of them, blah blah blah." And so forth. I said, "He goes, you want to join it?" I said, "Well, okay, And then I spoke to you about it. And then when you came in and started working, he said to me, I'm out for lunch with him one time. He said to me, he goes, "Gary, we have a great training process." He says, we train brokers to be good managers and whatnot, and so forth. And I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, just sign Curtis up. Don't even ask him." That's what he told me.
Yeah, for gestionnaire accompagnateur.
Yeah, he goes, sign him up, tell him which day he's going and what time, and that's it. Don't give him a choice.
Yeah, it helped. They got rid of that program. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the coach that did it, the teacher, Francois Savaria.
Yep.
Excellent coach. He's on his own now, so he still does coaching, consultation, stuff like that. I think they stopped it because he left.
Oh.
And he was a great teacher. Man, yeah.
Couldn't find somebody as competent as he was.
I guess not. Yeah. But he was great. Very, very animated. Very enthusiastic. Really nice guy. Just a likable guy.
Good guy.
And he knew what he was talking about. He had really, you could tell he had leadership qualities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he.
It worked because you were.
It helped big time.
You're a good manager and.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Welcome.
The one thing, the biggest trip, and this is a tip for everyone. The biggest thing that helped change my managerial or the way I manage people was, if you want someone to change something, start off with 3 compliments.
Yes.
You did this well, you did this well, you did this well. What do you think about this? And they're going to go, because now you've pet their ego and they're going, oh, wow, okay, they feel good about themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wow, I did do that well. Oh, great, I was trying really hard to do that. Thank you. What do you think about this? And you don't go, oh, you're doing this bad. You go, what do you think about this? And then the broker or the employee, they'll probably go, I don't know. You go, do you think we could improve it? Maybe we could get it up to this. What do you think about that? Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. Great, let's work on that this week. And you pick one thing. You can't pick 5 things to work on. It's never, you're going to burst their ego. You're going to burst their ego. You're going to kill their confidence. And not only that, having 5 thoughts to improve upon, you're just not going to improve.
No.
So it's better pick one thing for them to work on. Start with 3 compliments. You're going to diffuse them. You're going to disarm them. Then basically go to, hey, let's try working on this. Okay, yeah, good idea. Yep. It worked like a charm. My managerial career changed from that point on. Yeah. Seriously, that's the best tactic or best strategy I've ever received.
Yeah, training is important.
Yes, you didn't use that on me when.
Maybe not
after the call.
Maybe not that day, but I think I've been pretty good to you so far.
No, you have. You've been good. Okay. But yeah, anything else you wanna mention? What time is it? How long have we been going for? Holy shit! Almost 2 hours.
Yeah, almost 2. We've about like an hour and a half.
That's perfect. Anything else you want to talk about, or? Quick. Yeah, he wrote down a couple of things.
Well, I pretty well covered everything. I'm looking at.
Yeah, we got dopamine. We got what else you got there? You got.
Well, I wrote something down, news, but if you have me on next time, I'll bring that up.
The news?
Well, it's not really new. It was something to do with today's society, got to do with dopamine levels and all that kind of stuff.
Dopamine levels?
Yeah.
Yeah, with social media.
Well, social media. We're in a new ecosystem.
Dopamine nation. Yeah.
Yeah. It's there's so much stimulation for the brain, like Instagram and
TikTok, Facebook,
and ping on your phone and
drives me crazy.
And gambling on TV and shopping and everything. There's just so much that if you're not aware of it, you're gonna end up. It's like I was saying about the Romans. Roman Empire. You become enslaved, and it boxes you in, and for better or worse, it limits you.
That's one thing and even a lot of influencers, the good influencers that, I follow a couple of influencers, if you want to call them that, or YouTube personalities, and their job is to be on YouTube and produce content. A lot of times they'll say, I don't know if they're telling the truth or not, but they'll be like, yeah, my phone, I make sure I don't sleep with it in my room.
I don't either.
And the first half an hour of the day, I don't look at my phone. I get up, I go get some sunlight, I eat, I go shower, I don't look at my phone. And it's like, and for people, it's terrible that people do this. I'm guilty of it myself, but you can even feel, it's like I'll wake up in the morning, I'll open it, I'll go on TikTok, and then I'll go on my emails, my work emails, and I can feel my anxiety just go through the roof, but I'll do it every day. So I finally, like last week, I started making a conscious effort. Hey, I gotta stop this, man.
Well, what you do, you have to self-bind. Self-binding is not having your phone around because that's the way. If you're self-binding, then you're an alcoholic. You're not going to keep alcohol in your house, right?
Yeah.
So you recognize yourself and your weak points, and you do that, and you stay away from it. You self-bind. I wrote down the news because I was trying to get it into the conversation somewhere along the line, but I was reading something last week. It was really interesting because they were saying that the author was my age, and they were saying that. The difference, when they were growing up, all the news, you had to go to the news.
Yeah.
Like when I was growing up, there was news at 6 o'clock, where they had the local news, and then I don't even think they had national. I think the national was only at night. So they had 6 o'clock news for half an hour or whatever it was, and then news at 11. And when you're a kid, and it had the newspaper. Oh, I didn't read the newspaper when I was 7 years old. Yeah. Not too many kids did.
So you didn't get it.
I didn't get it, and then I never watched the news. So as a kid, growing up, we were sheltered in a sense. I didn't know about mass shootings and none of that.
It's crazy.
Where now, the news
24/7. everywhere.
You don't go to the news; it comes to you.
Oh, yeah.
So it's 24/7 everywhere. Exactly. Everywhere you go, it's like click, click, click,
And
click.
everyone's so upset. Everyone's so angry. Everybody's angry.
Yeah.
Everyone's yelling.
And antidepressants, and it's off the charts.
I know.
And not only in North America and Britain and the Western world, it's like China, India, everywhere.
Antidepressants.
Antidepressants,
Really?
sleep medication.
Interesting.
It's off the charts, and it keeps going like this.
So what you're saying is basically we're just overstimulated.
We're overstimulated.
We're not built to be like this.
No, we're not. And work has something to do with it. So if you can understand it, the mechanism and how it works, you can control it, and you can be more productive at work, have a happier work life, and have a happier home life. Have a happier outside.
I find work for me, to be honest. I come to work. It's my escape from that. Work for me is an escape. Strangely enough.
That's because you delegate.
Maybe. But yeah, when I come here, it's like on my phone and I get here, it's like I can just I have deep concentration, and it's something that I enjoy. You know, I just not every day, obviously, but for most of the time, it's actually quite therapeutic for me. I honestly think I don't think I'll ever retire. I know I'm young to say that, but
yeah, that's like me. I like to stay in it at some point. You know, to some extent.
It's okay. We're going to get that whole list of insurance brokers with the owners' names.
Yeah.
We'll give them the old one, too.
No problem.
Yeah.
Easy stuff.
All right, Gary Killen.
Okay, Curtis, thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. So once again, this is Gary Killen. It's Curtis Killen's father, the ex-president of KBD.
Ex-president.
Well, you were the president. Not because he got demoted, because he's on the way out. And if you guys like the podcast, or feel free to subscribe. Check us out on YouTube, TikTok, all the major platforms. And as always, thank you very much. We appreciate your viewership. Thanks, Gary.
Thanks for having me on.
See you later, man.
Look forward to next time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.